Hi, I'm Captain Mike. In this video, I'm going to try to show you some of the ways I make custom mushroom tops and bases. Maybe give you a little look into the reason that I do this. Start with, years ago, the first mushrooms I made were just simply by taking a piece of clay like this, cutting out a circle in it, and kind of bending it around to make it look like a mushroom top, or roll up a piece of this and make a stem. Very crude, but I liked them. But they were small, and I got tired of doing that, and so at a show in Atlanta I found some commercial molds to make really nice big mushrooms, and of course we all know bigger is better. So some of the first molds that I bought commercially were these. This is a really nice one of my favorites. It's a two-piece clamshell mold, and by Clay Magic, I think. This base here is one piece, this is one piece, but yet they are made by using a two-piece clamshell mold. So you pour the slip on them and you clean them all up and you glue them together when you're through. Same with this, same way. This is one mold, this is another mold, and you can do whatever you like with them color-wise. And this is this is another size. This one has two in it. Both are differently shaped, but it's a one-piece clamshell mold. And it goes on down to these real small ones here. You can get them, you know, all kinds of little sizes. They even have one smaller than this, okay? But the commercial molds, they're fine. There's nothing wrong with that, except if you want to be casting more mushrooms at one time, then you have got to have multiple molds, which led me to where we're going to go today, and that is how do you make your own molds for mushroom tops and bottoms, and do it simply. So if the rain does not drown me out feeding on this tin roof, it's pleasant when you're not making a video, then I'll show you what I do. This is not a tutorial. I'm not going to go step by step all the way through. I'm going to kind of run through it. So if you have questions, put them in the comments below, and I'll try to maybe make it a little, give you additional information. Before we start, there's going to be a couple of things that you need. You're going to need lots of plaster. I buy my plaster in 50-pound bags. I get it from Georgia Pacific, and actually it comes from Georgia Pacific. I buy it locally from a granite supply dealer here in town, and it cost me about 10 bucks a bag. Real reasonable. It's industrial plaster, but it works fine for what I do. I've made lots of molds out of it. I'm not going to tell you that it is as good as casting plaster, because I don't know the difference. But if you're going to be doing what I'm going to show you, you're going to need more than them little old gallon bags, little gallon cans you get at Hobby Lobby or wherever the heck it is and pay a bunch of money for. So if you don't have a source where you live, go on Georgia Pacific's website, send them a message and say, hey, where can I get industrial plaster in 50-pound bags near this zip code? Give me your zip code. And they'll get back to you and they'll tell you. You're going to need plaster. Next thing you're going to need, buckets. Lots of buckets. Every time you find something like this, pick it up. These buckets are great because you can cut them at different thicknesses. This bucket here, cut about in half, works really good for some of these molds. If you need a really thick, deep mold, then that'll work. But buckets like that, this old coleslaw bucket, these little things, just anything, because you're going to need them to make this project. Now, pro tip, so that you'll be able to get your mold out of your bucket when it is the plaster is set, you do two things. You'll spray the inside of the bucket with some mold release, but the best thing to do after that is cut it right down the side like that. Then you take your piece of tape and tape it all the way down, just like that. All the way down. You can use duct tape, you can use the air conditioning silver tape, you can use any kind of tape you have, just make sure it sticks good. And then when your plaster is set, you just peel the tape off and boom, the mold comes right out. So that's a pro tip, okay? You can do that on all of these. Now, you're going to be making, let's go ahead and do something here with rain stops. Maybe it'll let up. What you're going to be doing is making tops and bottoms, okay, or tops and trunks. And I like to have all kinds of different trunks and different tops, and that's the reason we're doing this video. So you can make them. Let's start with the trunks, okay, or the bases, whatever you want to call stems. Stems, I guess, would be what you call them. You start off just using plastic cups, styrofoam cups, anything that you have, any size you have, all the way down to these little communion cups. I mean, just any kind of a mushroom top or a stem you think you want to make, you can make just using nothing but these. And you can also use I have one that I use. What did I do with it? I put it somewhere out of my way. We'll talk about the first molds that I made like this, okay? One casting piece slip molds. And we'll start with those. And what you can do, I'm going to go ahead and get this out of the way because it's probably the one you won't want to do the most because it's more expensive. When I started off doing this, I had a few of these plastic yard art molds that I got from Ghost Statue off of eBay. And they have all kinds of molds, but you can just go to their website on eBay and you can type in mushrooms on their website in eBay and it'll pull up just mushrooms. You pick out what you want. I poured this thing here full of silicone, RTV, let it set up. It gave me this, and then I took this and put it, wonderful rain, not complaining, stuck it to a pan that was higher than this, a little bucket, stuck it down with silicone so plaster wouldn't go on it, not silicone, petroleum jelly so that it would seal. Poured the plaster on top of it, let it set, and I came up with that mold right there. Okay? Because silicone comes out of everything really easy. And I made some bases the same way, but that silicone's kind of expensive. So you don't want to really do that unless you just absolutely want to. So what I came up with was you could take the same mold, this mold right here. It's embossed on the inside with all kinds of little mushroomy striations of sort, but it also has them on the back side. They're not quite as sharp, but they're there. So you take your bucket. Imagine this bucket, if you will, is only half this distance, okay? Because you don't want to fill this one full of plaster because you're going to waste it all. You want a bucket to be about like that. Fill it full of plaster. Skeet your little mold down there, wiggle it around, get the air bubbles out. And it's going to want to float, so put something heavy on it and wait. After it sets up, this will pop right off. Of course, you sprayed it with mold release anyway, but it will come off if you didn't. But it'll pop right off. And then remove your mold from your bucket. And there you go. That's how you'd use these. Now, the same way with this. Same way. Spray some mold release on it, stick it down in your bucket, put some on top of it, and when you get through, you're going to have something that looks like that. One piece mold, ready to pour slip into. We won't get into slip casting. You know, all guys know all about how to do that. So you do that with all of these. You put them in the bucket, you push them down, you hold them down with something until it hardens, and then you get this out. If it won't come out easily, just tear it out. You got yourself a stem mold, and you can make as many or different shapes as you want. Now that moves us up to the tops of the mushroom itself. And I explained to you about this little puppy right here, but you can look around you for all kinds of objects that you have that are dome shaped, and anything that's dome shaped will make a pretty good mushroom. Got these things at some bin store or something somewhere for $50, 50 cents or so, and they make really great little mushroom tops. The same way with those that you do with any of the others. You fill your little container, mold container, and then you just plop that in there like that. And when it sets up, you have a mushroom mold. You know, like that. And it casts things that look like that. It's got a little flat spot there, but you just take and you just sand that right off. Make it perfectly round if you like. So you can use those. I have used bowls that are almost perfectly round on the bottom. Anything that you like that you can use to make your mushrooms. Now, one of the things that I have made here lately, and it's working out pretty good, is I have been using these resin molds and the resin casting as a positive. And they come in all kinds of different shapes and sizes. But in this case, I fill this up with resin, and when it hardens, I pop it out, drill a hole, put a screw in it so I can get a hold of it. And I'm running out of room here. Then you take your container. Imagine this is not as thick, as deep as this is, because you got to figure that out for yourself, how deep you want it. Don't waste your plaster. All this plaster down here is not doing you any good. You only need about 2 inches all the way around for a really good mold. Take this, fill this container with plaster, ease it in there, and kind of let it settle where you need to. This will be almost this neutral density with properly mixed plaster, and it'll just sit there. And then when it's dry, you just wiggle this and pop it out. Remember, you got your little pro trick there to get it out of that, and you're good to go. If this wants to sink too much, you may have to put you a piece of wood across here. Just get you a piece of wood, drill you a hole in it that's smaller than your screw. Screw your screw all the way down so that it is sitting flush across this, so that it'll sit like that, and that'll hold it there, okay? I should have had an example, but I don't. And then you have all these different little shapes, mushrooms. If you have a lathe, you can make some out of, you can put them on a lathe and make any shape you want, and then do the same thing, make them out of wood, polish it up real good, put a couple of coats of polyurethane on it, and then some release agent, and I mean, you can make just any shape you want if you've got a little lathe. So that's just an idea. When you get through with your molds and they dried a week or so, and you cast your slip in them, you'll get stuff that looks like that, okay? And you can go from there. These, of course, have been bisqued. These have not been bisqued. These are greenware, and we'll talk a little bit more about what you can do with those in a minute. That's all you have to do to get these different kind of molds. This is one that I made right here. I could not find that. That was one that comes from a Go statue, but I couldn't find it. I'm sorry, but it's the same as doing as using this. Okay, same thing. So we won't belittle that. This is a stem that was made solid. I just rolled out some clay, played with it with my fingers and got it where I wanted it, fixed it to the top of one of these, and fired it. And this, people kind of like that. Weird as it looks, they like it. And so let's see what we can do here without busting something. I'm going to show you a couple of ways that you can attach these here to these. Now this one here, and you can use the solid part, but you got to let them dry really good and make sure there's no air bubbles in them. Or you can make some that are hollow in the middle, and they're less likely to have air bubbles and they're less likely to explode. You don't want them to explode, trust me. If you run your kiln much, you have had something explode, and you don't like it, I don't like it, it's not fun. Well, what I do is I'll take a piece of clay that I flattened out. You can flatten it out with a roller pin, you can flatten it out however you want to, and you're going to need a dowel. I have different size dowels, depending on how thick you want to make your stem. We're fixing to make a stem now. This one's got a little taper to it. But what I do is I'll start off by putting the dowel down here, and I'll roll this piece of clay out. Kind of flatten out one edge, and you know why I'm doing that. And then roll it around. Let me get my slip here. Take your slip, put a little slip around it. The slip just like a glue. It's going to help this thing stay together. And you can let it dry as much as you want, but don't let it dry too much because it won't stick. Then you'll take and you'll just roll this puppy up on your dowel. And then you will cut off the excess and start to work it together. And this is just a matter of what you want to do, and I'm not going to take a lot of time with it, okay? This piece of clay was rolled out on a slab roller, and it's got these little indentions all over it that came from the canvas mat. So I use my fingers to rub them out. You don't have to if it's nice and slick to start with, but you can put whatever texture you want using your fingers, nipple it up, whatever you want to do. You just keep rolling it out there till you get it where you want it. Slip it off the dowel, and you've got this little tube, okay? Next thing I do is take it and I start to flare the base end. And again, this is all preference to you. We're going to do this thing really fast. You do it however you want to do it, as big a flare as you want on it. But remember, you're going to have some kind of flare because this mushroom, depending on the size of the top, is going to have to sit up and it's going to be top heavy. So you don't want something that'll just be falling over every time. So get your flare out there. Add some more to it if you want to make your flare out bigger. Again, your preference. Then take that puppy and just mash her down. Now I do this for a couple of reasons. One of them is pure aesthetics, okay? I like to get that bulbous effect down on the bottom. That's just me, but I like to do that. So watching it as you do this, you can control that, get it to where you want it, whatever shape, however you want it, makes it look a little bit more realistic. Then you'll take your top and you'll flare it just a little, and then you'll take your mushroom, and you can let these dry and glue them, but with this kind of top, it works better if you do this. I put a little bit of slip. Be generous with your slip. And then I take this and I just slop it in there, wiggle it around a little bit, and take my slip, mash it. You can mash in here and kind of get it where there's really joining good. Put a little slip in here on it. And of course, you all know already that the closer these two leather hard pieces are, and this is a little bit more than leather, a little less than leather, excuse me, it's a little softer. But the closer together the stuff you do is, the better it's going to stick. And there you have it, folks. You have mushroom with a stem. And then you just set it off somewhere and let it dry. And that's all you have to do. And so the only other thing I have to tell you is that you can make clamshell molds. I'm not going to explain exactly how to do that in this video. I think I already made a video on that, but I'm not sure. But there are videos out there on how to make a clamshell mold. By that I mean a two-piece mold. This was a vase mold that I made years ago to do vases. So it's worked great. I've made a lot of vases. And I made that by sourcing this glass from probably Goodwill. They got all kinds of this good, wonderful stuff. And then you just make a mold, two-piece, sink it in a container halfway, and then once it's dry, you put some release agent on top of the first half, pour the second half, and it's supposed to pop apart. And you'll get what I just showed you. That's just a real quickie on that, okay? Real quickie. But what you get is a mold that you can turn into a couple of bases at one time. You can also make a one-pour mold by using bottles. These all kinds of different bottles. They come in all kinds of different shapes and shoulders. So you pick out the bottle you want, and you have to know how to cut a little glass, and you'll cut off the top here. And then you can plug it up with clay, because you don't want that top to be open. Once you get it cut off, you fill it full of clay and smooth it. And then you can cut it off here at the shoulder for your master. Now, this is really important. This is another little tip. When you're cutting these, you're going to be making a mold by sticking this down in a container like that. So you do not want plaster to ever go over an undercut. This bottle, if you notice, has got a little it's straight and it humps up, then it goes down. If you cut this bottle off back behind this, you'll never get this mold, this bottle out of your plaster. It'll move, but you won't ever get it out. So you have to come up here and cut above that shoulder. You know, run your glass cutter around it there, so that when you pop off, you've got this little piece right here, okay? And again, all bottles are different sizes. You get a different shoulder, you get all that stuff different. But the point is that you get that piece out, and you'll end up with something that looks like this. And then you want to separate it. You want to cut it, whatever the first part you want, first shoulder, and the second shoulder. This could be a stem, and this could be a stem on a larger mushroom. How I accomplish that is I made this little gizmo right here. It's just a piece of wood, and drilled all the holes, how far apart you want them. The diameter slightly smaller than a pencil. You want the pencil to move, but you don't want it to move much. Then you can select the hole you want. You can come up here and you can just twist the clay piece, and it'll mark all the way around the bottle, perfect, however you want it. Then you take your X-Acto knife and you follow that line you just cut. Now imagine if you put that pencil hard enough around it, it'd eventually cut the whole thing off. But I find it easier to take an X-Acto knife and just kind of cut like that until it pops off. And you've got this one, and it makes a real nice mushroom base. Real nice mushroom base. And then you have this one that will make an even nicer mushroom base. Let me go get a mushroom. It makes a really nice mushroom base on this. If you like the little fat ones, okay? Or this is one of the mushrooms that comes out of the commercial mold. So you don't have to use the stems that come with commercial mold. You could take that one and to make a nice little short mushroom. A little shoulder makes it work out great. So there's no number of possibilities, no limit to possibilities that you could do with these things. And this does work very well. This mold, cutting these in half, works great. You may have to bust a bottle to get it out of your mold, but there's plenty of bottles around. So just be careful, don't cut yourself, have eye protection on. You bust the glass out of it if it does not come out. But if you get around that shoulder and you use enough release agent, it will come out. So I'm hoping that I kind of covered everything. This is what a casting looks like out of that mold. I was just showing you that you build out of the glass. Just so you kind of know what you're getting into. You see, that's what they look like. So you can make a two-piece mold if you want to. They're not hard to do, but that's not the object of this video. The object of this video is to show you how you can make all kinds of mushroom tops and stems, slip cast them, and mix and match. Just mix and match them all up. And the beauty of this is, it's so easy to do once you have the master that you want. Even if you've, once you get these done, you can just use them over and over and over again. Or if you turn one on your lathe, I may even make a video on turning one on a lathe because they're really neat. Then you can use them over and over again, and you can make multiple molds. And by that I mean, if you decide you need 5 mushrooms and you want to do 5 at a time just alike, make you 5 molds. And then you just pour them and pour your slip out. If you don't, you have to wait until these things right here dry out after you use them. They soak up water. That's the whole purpose of a plaster mold. It pulls the water out of the slip and it makes a shell. That's what it does. So the water's got to go somewhere. It's in this. So it will dry out, but you have to let it dry out. Okay, I'm sure that I have forgotten something. I'm not really sure. If you have questions, put them in the comments below. Please be nice. I know I'm an old man and I ramble on and I'm not real clear on a lot of things, but I try my best. This is not a video to tell you how smart I am or how gifted or talented I am. It's a video to show you, to make you think, to share with you what little knowledge I do have. And some of it works out great, some of it will not work out great for you. So I want you to share not only with me, but with all the viewers, your suggestions. And I thank you for watching. If you managed to stay here through all of this, haven't made a video in a while, but that is my offering on this subject. And I hope you enjoyed it. I'm Captain Mike, and I'm out of here.